everyone, and welcome to another episode of Second Rope Marks. I am your host, Alan Awesome, joined always by Rick Othen. Rick, good eat. Look at that beautiful belt.
The boyhood dream has come true for Shawn Michaels. And that is his belt. That is the belt he won at WrestleMania 12 off Bret Hart.
I know we got like a whole little agenda for today, but quickly, that probably is my favorite belt.
It is. Yes.
It would go that, then the Big Wing Eagle, then probably the white strapped IC title.
Yes. Yeah, that one's nice. I do like that.
But today's episode is a trip down memory lane, baby. We are not talking about anything going on in wrestling this week. Not one bit. We are talking about our fan, where we started, what happened to our little second rope marks.
It's
you
been
want to
great.
start off? It has been
great. Absolutely. I was thinking about it the other day, and while my fandom started in 1996, really getting into, like, Shawn Michaels was my favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
Fuck a Bret Hart. Shawn Michaels was the guy. But I remember my first encounter with professional wrestling. I would have been about 3. There was a TV show in England on ITV called Movies, Games and Videos. Directly after this, WCW had a 1-hour program. And I remember my dad was flicking through the channels and it happened to land on WCW and Sting came on. I was petrified of him. And this was Surfer Sting. This wasn't even like Crow Sting, Mystical Sting. This was Surfer Dude, vibrant colors, and woo! I was scared shitless of him. And that is the earliest memory I have of my first encounter of professional wrestling.
Wow. Well, my earliest memories go way, way back. My earliest memories are sitting at a bowling alley with my father watching WrestleMania 4.
Ooh.
That was the first WrestleMania I remember watching and being like, what is this? Because it is incredible.
That was the tournament, correct?
That was the tournament to crown the new champion. In the finals, it was Macho Man versus Ted DiBiase with Hulk Hogan with the chair. Yeah, Macho Man. Yeah, I just won the title with the help from the immortal Hulk Hogan. Yeah, soon we will join up as the Mega Powers. Yeah, oh yeah. But that was my first memory. You don't want to talk about getting scared. I remember watching the 93 Royal Rumble at
93
at the same bowling alley, Yokozuna, obviously.
Yes.
And I remember seeing Giant Gonzalez and just being absolutely terrified, to the point where I was like, we need to leave this bowling alley right fucking now. Because this dude is just destroying one of the people I loved. Still do. He's the Undertaker. Just absolutely manhandled the Undertaker in the Royal Rumble. I was like, what is he wearing? Like, what the fuck is that?
He dwarfed the Undertaker as well. The Undertaker's legit 6'11", and John Gonzalez was like 7'6".
Yeah.
I don't recall ever watching any of the early 90s WWE until I got into wrestling in 96. And then I'd go back and I bought some VHSs. There was a UK Rampage 92, which was Coliseum home videos.
And that was
had the main event of Undertaker and Ultimate Warrior versus the Berserker and Papa Shango.
Huff.
Yes.
Huff. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So obviously the big one that I really started my fandom was January, a fateful afternoon in January of 1992. I started off the day going to run errands with my mother. My mother was getting her hair colored or hair cut or something. Early 90s took forever, forever. I'm walking around this little mini mall that we have, and there was a Gold's Gym there. And I was just like, oh, okay. So I decided to like walk by the Gold's Gym, and I see this big, burly guy just like working out. I'm like, that dude looks familiar. So I kept walking. I walked back. I saw it again, and I was like, okay, he looks really familiar now. And then he turned around, and it was Marty Jannetty. Weeks,
Ah,
weeks, maybe days after the barbershop incident.
ah, yes, the kick heard
So
around the world.
the kick heard around the world. So then fast forward a few hours, we go home and my dad's there. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. What are you doing?" He's like, "Get dressed. We're gonna go to back then it was known as the Knickerbocker Arena." And he surprised me with tickets to the 1992 Royal Rumble in which Ric Flair, woo, won at number 3. And to quote Gorilla Monsoon, no one at that time who has drawn number 1 through 5 has been there at the end. But
Ah, yes.
my first live event was the 1992 Royal Rumble. And talk about being scared, the year after I was scared of John Gonzalez. That year, I wanted to leave the Knickerbocker Arena because The Undertaker scared the shit out of
The Undertaker has a presence. I got to experience his entrance a few years ago at the Melbourne Cricket Ground for Super Showdown.
me.
While that isn't, from back when we were kids, it's true what people say about the Undertaker's entrance. He has this presence. He has this aura. My daughter was with me at the time. I think she was 11, and she stayed with me for the whole event because we bought tickets for her birthday. It was really for me. My wife took our son back to the motel because he was crying and carrying on, and my daughter was just like, "Wow, like I've got chills." And like my daughter doesn't watch much wrestling at all, and that was just the aura of the Undertaker. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, a
But
little ways down the line, I'll get to another Undertaker
yeah,
thing. But what else you
I
got?
got I got a VHS. I remember when I was it was 19, yeah, it was about 1996. But I bought the VHS of SummerSlam 95. By all
Mm.
accounts, that event was a complete dud. It was a one match show, and that match happened to be Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon in the ladder match. Now, my friends had some VHS
Oh, the
tapes of wrestling.
SummerSlam. Oh, the SummerSlam ladder match. That's actually pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, I loved it. And I saw that match before I saw the WrestleMania 10 ladder match,
Yep,
which
same.
obviously happened before that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what started my love affair, my my pre-pubescent gay boy crush on Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels could do no wrong for me. And then we were staying at my parents' friend's house one night, and an advert came on TV for SummerSlam 96. It was Shawn Michaels versus Vader. And I was like, oh, Shawn Michaels was in a ladder match for Razor Ramon. Can we get this? And I pestered my parents to buy the pay per view, and they did. And from that moment, from SummerSlam 96, I didn't miss a single pay per view, a single Raw. I was hooked from then on. Shawn Michaels was facing the Mastodon, Vader.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I just couldn't believe Shawn beat him. Like that was crazy. And I remember Owen Hart faced Savio Vega in the opening contest. Yes, Owen. And Owen had the cast on, and he had a broken arm, but it wasn't really broken anymore. So the commentators were picking up on that and calling Owen a cheat, and it was brilliant. I loved it. And I was hooked from that moment. Shawn Michaels could do no wrong. I
Yeah.
cried when he lost to Sid at Survivor Series. I was
Uh,
9 years old,
I,
and
th I thought you were gonna say you cried when you lost a smile. It was like everybody did.
I did, yeah. But yeah, before that, where Sid gave Jose Lothario, Shawn Michaels'
Oh,
manager, the
mm,
heart attack by hitting him with the camera, And Shawn Michaels didn't give a fuck about the belt. He lost the match and he just wanted to get to his manager. And like, that just spoke to me. As a 9-year-old, that spoke to me. And yeah, I've been HBK Mark ever since. He can do no wrong. Even in D-Generation X, pow, where he was the bad guy, him and Hunter Hearst Helmsley and China, suck it, against the Canadians, against the Hart Foundation. Fuck the Hart Foundation. They had the British Bulldog. I couldn't care less. Shawn Michaels, him and his jumbo weenie and the big stick, suck the cook aprons. And
I couldn't have sex with that intern. In fact, we were up.
I was up all night.
Oh my god!
Oh, I love
good
old school DX.
Old school DX was great. Which brings me to my next memory, old school DX. Thanks for the segue. You know, after the 1992 Royal Rumble, I was hooked. I tried to not to miss everything, but you know, growing up slightly poor, you know, we weren't able to get as many pay-per-views. We would just, like I said, we would go, pay-per-views weren't really a thing in the early 90s, so that's why we would go to like a bowling alley and watch like closed circuit or something like that. I can't remember what it used to be called back in the day. But fast forward to the night after WrestleMania 14 in Albany, New York, the reformation of DX.
Ah, yes.
Was in Albany, New York. I was a part of that. That's where X-Pac came out, trashed Eric Bischoff, and Hogan and all them, and G-Generation X was formed. Lots of memories. And from that point on, I was like, every time WWE is in Albany, I am going to go. And boy, that was such a good thing.
I didn't want Austin to win that title. I understood Austin was the new babyface, and I liked Austin. I thought he was brilliant. His feud with the Nation and The Rock early on was great.
Oh.
I didn't want Shawn Michaels to drop the title. And I had no idea at the time that his back was injured. Again, what was that, 98? So I would have been 11?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No idea. You don't know the inner workings of wrestling by that. And we certainly didn't have, you know, the internet to tell us all of the news and all the buzzworthy things going on in the wrestling world.
You literally had to subscribe to Dave Meltzer's letter, an actual letter.
And I wasn't doing that at age 11. I didn't understand where Shawn was. Why has he gone?
Yeah. What happened? It wasn't until you bought like the Coliseum videos or whatever like that you could see like, oh, he injured himself. And like even going back when you look on that match that he actually injured himself, like his back really doesn't hit the casket, but like you can kind of hear
just clips it
and just like a thud, and it's like that little bit was the one that broke his back.
Yeah.
So no, I hear you. It's just kayfabe was alive and well back then because you had no idea.
Kid, yeah,
as a kid, you're like, wait, is the Undertaker actually dead? Like he might be. Like that has like looking back, watching it now, it's like the stuff with like the Survivor Series where he like with Yokozuna. And like he comes up and like in like the silhouette. I'm like, back then I'm like, what the fuck is happening? But like now I'm like, that is so cheesy.
Yep.
But yeah, I know what you
mean. Speaking of the Undertaker and some of the weird matches and scenarios he's been in, we'll jump back to SummerSlam '96, the Boiler Room Brawl with Mankind. That was my first introduction to Mick Foley. I didn't know him from ECW. I didn't know about ECW at that time. Again, 9 years old. And I only had a brief encounter with WCW when I was 3, which would have been in the 1990. And I don't recall seeing a Cactus Jack on my screen when I saw it. So I'm seeing Mick Foley as Mankind, this brand new character for the first time. And again, I thought he was crazy. Like he's ripping his own hair out, like shrieking and like, oh my God, it was just something out of this world. It was, Uncle Paul, Uncle
Uncle
Paul.
Paul.
Like, just for a 9-year-old brain to comprehend. Like, I go through that with my
Yeah.
son now. My son's just 10, and like we watch AEW together, and there'll be questions that he'll throw at me about certain things, and I like kayfabe is dead. It is completely dead, and like I find myself just going to Oaks. It's fine. They're okay. It's a story. We're watching a
Mm-hmm.
movie right now. It's a
Mm-hmm.
2-hour movie, and he still can't comprehend some things like Luchasaurus. He's a fucking dinosaur.
Yeah.
So,
No, he's a dinosaur. Yeah. Just
yeah.
let him believe that. He was not at all in that television show Big Brother where you live in a house the whole time. Nope, he was not in that. You will not be able to see him with his mask off in that show. But no, I'm glad.
So
I'm glad. Yeah.
did you ever used to wrestle with your friends? Did you have a makeshift ring, or did you kind of just wrestle in the lounge room or at the local park or whatever?
So early on in the days, me and my friend would just like put on matches, but like we put like a mattress on in his garage and just
Yep.
wrestle on the mattress. It wasn't until a few years after that is where we amped it up to a trampoline
Yep.
without the walls. And I had one match, and it was a pretty good match, I had to say. I remember that very vividly. Like the guy was like trying to get me in like, you know, a chicken wing, but I kind of like reversed it, fell backwards, somehow grabbed his ankle and just got him in the ankle lock and tapped.
Nice.
And then it wasn't until one of my idiotic friends decided to hit me in the back with a lawn chair, and I was like, I'm done. That hurt. Fuck that. But no, I dream about it every time. I like my wrestling character is like, oh, like this is what I would look like. This is what I would do if I was a wrestler
Yeah.
like right now. One of these
we
days.
used to we used to wrestle at the local park, and being growing up in England, it was always pretty cold, so you always used to go out with jumpers. But we'd take our jumpers off and we'd put them make a square, and that was our rings. We had no ropes. We'd
Hmm.
pretend the ropes were there, and we would wrestle. There'd be four of us usually. There was myself and my three best friends, James, Robbie, and Chris. Shout out, boys, love you. I'm still in contact with them to this day. I remember my friend Chris put the crippler crossface on me, and he wrenched back, and I heard the vertebrae in my neck. It just went pop, 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 and just yelled out. And I'm thinking he's done some serious damage, and he just gave me a spine alignment pretty much. But yeah, that was payback, because I think I got him in the walls of Jericho and really, really wrenched in on him.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I got that ankle lock on, and I was like,
yeah,
I was a moment away from laying down on it, but he tapped immediately.
my mate James hit a DDT on me, and I failed to protect myself. I knocked me loopy, and I remember getting so mad that I made him stand in front of me while I speared him like Goldberg.
Yes.
And these ladies come out from their house, and they thought it was like a gang fight and everything else. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was don't wrestle, kids. Don't try any of this stuff at home. Like,
Please take our message and the message that WWE sometimes puts. Do not try this at home. It
yeah.
hurts. It hurts.
Did you ever? So obviously, you were like me. You were a big WWE fan growing up as a kid. Did you have much interaction with WCW? And
Not
we'll get to ECW a little bit, but
not until the Monday Night Wars were not until like, probably about a few months after NWO started, where I was
yeah,
like, what's going on over there? And honestly, what really lost my interest in WCW was the Tony Schiavone. Well, that will put a lot of butts in the seats.
yeah,
That
okay.
I was like, I was watching that episode live, and I was like, no way, Mick Foley wins the title. So I switched over, and I
You were
was
one of
like,
the people.
I was one of the people. So because at that point I was like, let me just see what WCW is all about. And I started watching it. I was like, no, this isn't half bad. And then then that happened, and I went back to WWE. And then Ready to Rumble came out
Yep.
with David
Um,
Arquette.
Yes, David
And
Arquette.
I was like, okay, let me go back over to WCW for a little bit. And this is back when like now we're getting a little bit more money. Now we have DVR. DVR is a thing. We can record one thing, watch another thing. So I'd watch like, you know, Raw and then like record WCW or vice versa. And you know, Vince Russo kind of definitely destroyed WCW, but
Oh,
it
without a
was
doubt.
okay. The best thing that they did, and I know a lot of people hate on it, was that
Enjoy.
triple cage match that they had with like
Oh,
It was
yeah.
DDP versus what, Jeff Jarrett
And David Arquette.
and David Arquette, and that's when Canyon, who better than Canyon, got thrown off the
Yep.
cage. And what?
Yep.
David Arquette didn't win that night, did he?
No.
No,
He lost the
Jeff
title
did.
to Jeff. Yep.
Yeah.
Dropped it. I remember, again, I didn't watch a lot of WCW at all. We'd flick the channels from time to time.
Yeah.
Big follower of Raven, loved Raven's flock. I thought he was cool. Goldberg, again, he just had that
that's
aura. And the cruiserweights, but I wasn't
yeah.
into the Dean Malenkos or the Chris Benoits at the time. I was more Chris Jericho, Juventud Guerrera, Billy Kidman, Rey Mysterio Jr., Psychosis.
Billy
Yeah,
Kidman's theme song back in the day.
Yeah, loved it. They were what got me watching WCW. But the minute, like, sounds horrible because I like the guy Macho Man Randy Savage, but the minute Savage was on, Luger was on, Hogan was on, Roddy Piper was on, it was
Nash
just
Hall.
snoozeville. Like, they just couldn't compete with what WWE were putting out.
Mm-hmm.
WCW's undercard blew WWF's out of the water. But WWF's main event blew WCW's out of the water.
Yep.
And yeah, I was just a WWE loyalist. I mean, as a boy going through, the changes, they had a lot of TNA on there, and I'm not talking about Test and Albert. And that got me hooked. The Cat, woohoo, puppies, and
Armageddon 2000.
Sable, yeah, Sunny. Oh, every teenage boy's fantasy back then. Not so much now. She can rot in jail.
Bitch.
Steve Austin or The Rock? Who were you?
I was, oh man, I don't know, because back in like, I wouldn't say high school. I think you can kind of consider that like middle school. We would do like factions and all that stuff. Like, oh, like one group of friends would be like DX, the other one would be like the NWO and all that stuff. I think I was always mostly DX, but back then, I'm not gonna lie, I had the Rock shirt. I had the Rock sunglasses. I can't do it with his eyebrow, but I can go. We'll see. On the camera, it looks like I'm actually doing it, but in real life, it's my left eyebrow. But I think
My left
I was
eyebrow is the
both.
same.
I didn't hate one person. I didn't like one person more than the other. I was strictly both. I just loved it. I just loved what was going on. The Rock and
It was
Austin.
entertaining.
It was, especially because what happened in Albany.
I was an Austin guy whenever he was against The Rock.
Yeah.
I guess, I had some harboring resentment from Survivor Series 98 when The Rock turned, where he joined Vince's corporation. I think I harbored resentment from that as a kid. Excuse me. But yeah, I was stone cold after Shawn Michaels had disappeared and everything else.
That was a tournament, right?
It was
the
Deadly
finals,
Games tournament.
Deadly Games tournament. It was Mankind versus Rock in the finals.
Yes, because Mankind was Vince's chosen one, but he was really the puppet.
Dad.
Yeah. Oh, that was the greatest Mankind inclination. I actually have Mr. Socko. I have him when I bought Mankind's book. I was going to show him, but he's stained all yellow. It doesn't look good at all. I'm not putting it on camera.
No.
But I do have Mankind's Mr. Socko. And I've got a bunch of the autobiographies from I got the first two Mankind ones. I got all of Chris Jericho's. A Lion's Tale is extremely underrated. Got both Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels' book. So I'm big into the autobiographies from wrestlers as well. And that's where I get my knowledge from and my understanding of the ins and outs. I've been reading autobiographies since I was, say, 13, I think.
Yeah.
And then, I've bought them multiple times and then had to buy them again because they never made the trip over to Australia with me.
Mm-hmm. I had The Rock's, I had Mankind's, I had Kurt Angle's because I was a big Kurt Angle fan.
Really?
Loved Kurt.
Wow.
Loved Kurt Angle.
That's so strange to me because I could not name anyone back when we were kids that liked Kurt Angle.
I had a shirt
we
and everything.
Hated him.
I had the 3-eye shirt.
Him.
Intensity, integrity, and intelligence.
Like,
he was so
I get
good.
it all. I get it all now. As now, the whole abstinence thing was hilarious. Now that I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, this was a guy that was trying to stop people having sex. And again, 12, 13, 14-year-old me, that's the ultimate goal for a guy, right? Is to have sex. So this milk drinking buffoon is just hated him. I popped so hard when Taz come out at Royal Rumble 2000.
That was pretty sweet.
And I knew Taz because I started to get into ECW just as Taz left. So I kind of got into him. Obviously, we got that preview in 97 where ECW invaded Raw. It was that co-promotion, which was my first introduction to Rob Van Dam. The whole fucking show. And that ECW just changed my whole perspective on wrestling, like the things that could be done, because these weren't being done in the mainstream. Like you had your hardcore matches, but they weren't hardcore. You know what I mean? Like not like ECW was hardcore at the time. And Rob Van Dam, Taz, and Sabu were the three guys that I really liked. And then, that was it. That was the big three, the WCW, ECW, and WWF at the time.
Yep.
And then it all fucking crumbled in 2001, didn't it?
Yep. Yep, it did. It did. Well, we don't have much time left. Just figured we might have to do a part 2 because we have a lot of history to go through.
I think so. The time has just flown.
It has.
I don't know. Like I know these podcasts, we tend to try and keep it to about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how long we've got to go, but
8.
We've got about 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll tell you what. I won't get into growing up. Like when I moved to Australia when I was 15, I lost touch with wrestling for a little bit, but then I got back into it when I was 18. And that was my first encounter at a live event, which we won't go into now.
Yeah. Because the live events that I went to were, I was a kid, so I really didn't know. Yeah. It wasn't until the mid 2000s is when I really started like understanding the business more and all this stuff. Yeah, because there's still a lot of history. I've said this before. There's a lot of history that's happened in WWE in Albany.
Yes.
And I was lucky enough to be a part of.
A lot of history in WWE. This is the WrestleMania Anthology.
Those are DVD, kids.
DVDs, yes. This is like a CD.
Yeah, like not everything was streaming back then.
No,
we didn't have well, and I want to say about mid 2000s we had Netflix, but it was like I said, DVDs. You had to mail them back in.
Yeah,
I had the Royal Rumble one. The Royal Rumble one was cool.
The Anthology Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
my mate's got that actually. But this is Volume 2. And this was every WrestleMania from 1 to 20. And
Volume 2 would be 6 through 10, right?
Yeah, Volume 2
would be WrestleMania 6 through 10.
Yes, 6 through 10. HBK coming off the ladder.
Oh,
Now this I got
was
bought for
wrestling.
Christmas off my folks, and it was $450.
Could
And
you?
I remember,
It's mind blowing to think about that now.
yeah,
DVD sets like that costed close to, almost to $1,000. It was like I remember that's why I only bought like the separate volumes because they wanted $400 for that whole anthology. I'm like, absolutely not.
yeah, yeah. This was 450 Australian dollars, and I remember,
Crazy.
and I've still got it, even though I had the network. Like all of my DVDs are now packed away in the
Yeah.
garage.
Hmm.
I just remember thinking to myself, this is going to be worth a mint one day.
Nope.
It's just an expensive paperweight now.
Yep, it really is. Tell that to
Unfortunately.
my box filled. I have the WWE Network twice. I have it on
Yep.
streaming on my TV and in a box up in my attic. It is just sitting there. I
Yep.
literally have like the entire pay-per-views of 2003. I think I have the Royal Rumble anthology. I have volume 2 and 3 of that WrestleMania anthology.
Yep.
I just have it's I literally have the WWE Network on my top.
Yep.
But this will have to be a two-parter
I
because
think so. This is
is
gonna
crazy.
it's fun reminiscing, and I want to get into 2005 a little bit when we
'06
do
for
part
me.
two. Yeah.
'06 for me. That was a
Ah,
year.
that's right. Prove me right, as Vince said, and I'll say no more.
Yeah, we'll cut it off at that. Ladies and
I think
gentlemen,
so.
this was the early glimpse. This was volume 1 of our early fandoms. And this will be up later on today, obviously, because
Oh,
you're watching it right now. Yes.
shout out Abdul Cabgo Championship belts. Capgo Championship belts. You can find him on Facebook. You can find him on Twitter. Abdul makes phenomenal belts. He keeps you updated every step of the way. He sends you pictures of the process. He has a payment plan. He's just a genuine, lovely guy.
It
And
really
if you're
is.
willing to work with him, he will work with you. Go check them out. Capgo Championship belts on Facebook.
Well, while we're
And
at
he's
it, I will be right back because I'm going to get mine.
oh
Talk to him, Rick. Yeah.
yeah. Oh God, it's good to reminisce. It is good to reminisce. Wrestling, I'll agree with some of the older people, not Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette can go suck a dick, and same with Eric Bischoff to a degree. Eric, I agree with some things, but wrestling, ooh, the AEW belt. Wrestling is not what it used to be, but maybe that's just because we're adults. And Allan is back with his AEW title again from Abdul from Capco Championship belts. And that is a gorgeous looking belt, sir.
Got the Allen Austin right there. Custom nameplates if you want it. Like I said,
Nice.
like you said, Abdul, craftsman, master craftsman. And let me tell
Chef's
you
kiss.
guys, this thing is fucking heavy. Heavy. It is 4 layers. I actually did a review on it, but 4 layers. It is great. But yeah, what were you saying when I was gone? Sorry.
Nice. I was just talking about how wrestling isn't the same as what it was back in the day without
No.
sounding like one of the old timers, like fuck off Cornette and
Mm-hmm.
Bischoff and Disco Fuckwit Inferno. But again, maybe it's just because we remember it as a different time where, we didn't look into the business. We just enjoyed the product. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what? That's probably how everyone should view the product now.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the information. Don't worry about the dirt sheets or anything like that. Just enjoy wrestling. If you like WWE, great, not a problem. It's not our favorite promotion. We still watch bits and pieces so we can keep up to date. We like AEW. I like New Japan Pro Wrestling. If you don't like any of them, there's Impact, there's GCW, there's ROH, there's Noah, there's DDT, Rev Pro. Like the list goes on.
And on and on and on. Well, Rick, it's been great. I love the trips down memory lane. Back to a simpler
So do I,
time.
mate.
A simpler time
Absolutely.
without responsibilities. Good times.
Exactly. No responsibilities is good, but you people have a responsibility to follow us on social media.
At Second Rope Marks. You can follow me on Twitter at Allan Off or no, at Biggie Falls 86. It's down.
It's down here. It is.
Yeah, it's right. Whoop. You can follow him on Twitter at Rick Othen 22. It's been a pleasure.
It has, mate. Thank you very much.
Yes,
I can't wait
sir.
to do part 2. I don't think we'll do it next week. I think we'll do a different episode next week. We'll space it out. We'll work it out. But this was a lot of fun, taking a trip down memory lane.
Yep, it has. I have to go get ready for a wedding today, so that'll be fun.
Good luck with that.
I'm
going to go eat some ice cream and then go to bed.
So we must bid you adieu. Good night and goodbye. See you guys later.
See ya.